A break in a cold case brings charges more than 25 years after the crime. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Steve Savard. Courtney has the night off. DNA evidence identifies a suspect in the murder of 9-year-old Angie Housman. Earl Cox is charged in the 1993 murder. The photo you see here shows him the same year the crime was committed in St. Anne. News 4's Alexis Zotos is following the new developments.
Well, Steve, these images from November of 1993 have haunted so many parents. A killer on the loose for decades. Angie's own mother died 2 years ago, never knowing who killed her child. But tonight, police say they know the answer, and now they're working to find out if there is a connection between Earl Cox and Angie's family.
Long overdue. Long overdue.
These women, known as Angie's Angels, kept Angie Housman's name in the public eye for years. But prosecutor Tim Lomar says it was this group of investigators from St. Charles County, St. Anne, and the Major Case Squad that helped discover the long-sought answer to the question, who killed Angie Housman?
The fact that it took this long for us to be able to use the current technology and do the DNA testing, which gave us the result that we have, that was a blessing in disguise. Had we tested this particular item any sooner than we did, there's a very good chance that nothing would have come about because the technology wasn't advanced enough.
DNA on a piece of fabric from the scene where Angie was found tied to a tree helped crack the case. New technology gave them the answer, Earl Cox.
He did not appear on anyone's radar, and I will say he was among a list of several hundred, if not 1,000 people who were known sex offenders in the St. Louis County area. And while that sounds like, as we sit here and Monday morning quarterback it, well, why didn't you go talk to him? Why didn't you follow that lead up? It's not that simple.
This is Earl Cox from 1993. A mugshot is not yet available, despite the fact that this man has a violent criminal history of sexually assaulting children. He lived nearby Angie Housman's St. Anne home.
Fantastic, they found the guy, but I heard that they ruined me out. You know, I don't have nothing to do with this. And
that is Ron Bone, Angie's stepfather. But despite what he says, police have not ruled him nor anyone else out.
She was malnourished, and she was alive when she was left out in the woods to die. That leads us to believe that she was being held somewhere without food, without nourishment, and she was being tortured. We have reason to believe that Earl W. Cox was not the only suspect involved in this case.
Do you know the name Earl Cox?
I don't know who he is, no.
When you saw his picture, did he look familiar?
Sort of, but, you know, you're talking some years back. I could have seen him anywhere.
Alexis, you stated earlier that Angie's mother died 2 years before this day, before she saw a suspect named. Cox is expected to face more charges in St. Louis County.
That's what we learned today. There were cases that the St. Louis County Police Department and St. Louis County prosecutor are looking into, and they do expect that he could be charged in a different assault of a different child. But in this case, here is what happens next. He will be extradited back to St. Charles to stand trial. He is currently being held in a federal facility in North Carolina, where he remains after being convicted of child pornography. So, you know, there's a lot of different things that are really happening with this case, a lot more information that we're going to keep digging into, and people can really find a lot more information on our website at KMOV.com.
All right. Thank you, Alexis.